I'm excited to share the deepest, darkest secrets of my. Oh, I'm sorry. Are we recording right now?
Are we talking about your dating life again?
I got him. Hey, everybody. Welcome to our first Rebellion Online Sunday. I'm your host, Josiah. I am the handsome and fantastic MC. I have been appointed to this position, and you're going to love it. Today we're going to have our next installment in our month-long Won't You Be My Neighbor series, hosted by Lynn Ault himself. And without further ado, I feel like I should introduce the man of the hour, our good old youth pastor, Lynn Ault. Welcome.
Are we practicing social distancing right now?
I wish we were. Lenny.
Is this safe?
You know, this is... I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't know what to tell you. Tuttle's not here. The world feels like it's falling apart.
Wait, we're online. I don't really need to be doing this, do I?
No, you don't.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't have the corona, so...
Well, that we know of.
Yet. Anyways.
Josiah, thank you, man.
Yeah, anytime.
I'm really excited. I really appreciate you and Garrett and all the hard work you guys are putting in for us to be able to do this stuff.
Okay.
Awesome. Hey, you guys, welcome to our first Online Rebellion Sunday. I wish I could tell you that we're going to be right back here in the upper room next week, but I can't. The truth is, none of us know how long all of this is going to be going on. So until then, we're going to do our utmost to keep you connected. What that means is we've started a YouTube channel, and we're going to be dumping content on there. We're going to be utilizing the existing social media platforms that we have: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We've even added a TikTok. And if you want to be involved with any of these things, just let us know. The more involved you are, the better, and that's why we're doing all of this. Some of the exciting things that we're going to be looking at doing: daily leader devotionals, leader and student spotlights. Leaders got to teach stuff. Going to be a funny segment. I hope you guys really enjoy it. So the leaders are mobilized. We want you to know you're not going through this alone. If you need anything, please reach out to us. We're going to be reaching out to you on a regular basis. And that really sounded weird. I hope it did sound weird because I intended for it to sound as weird as possible. At any rate, we are in the Good Neighbors series. And I got a story about being a bad neighbor. So Elaine and I bought our first house in Colorado. And there was a fire pit in the backyard. So we invited some friends over to christen the new house and the fire pit by making some s'mores. So we're in the backyard, it's dark, we're making our s'mores, and it's exciting. But then we started hearing sirens. Sirens literally in front of our house, which was really scary. So we go through the side gate out to the front of the house, and right in front of us, there's all these fire trucks. The house across the street is literally burning down. Now remember, we had come straight from our backyard where we were making s'mores. We go across the street with the rest of the neighborhood to watch what's going on, watch the brave firemen put out the fire. And there we stand with our s'more sticks with marshmallows on them. And our neighbors look over at us with the looks of death, like we had literally brought s'more sticks and marshmallows to roast on their house as it was engulfed in flame. I'm just kidding. Actually, that did not happen. But it would be a good story about being a bad neighbor. There's a story from the Bible that really tells us a lot about being good and bad neighbors. It's from the book of Luke, chapter 10, verses 35 through 50. We're going to go ahead and read that. But first, I want to give you a little bit of background info on why Jesus chose a Samaritan to be the hero of this story. Samaritans were people that had once been part of the northern kingdom of Israel. The kingdom had been overrun by neighbors, by neighboring nations. Now, the rule for Jewish people was that you weren't supposed to intermingle with a conquering or conquered nation. You kept the bloodlines pure, which meant that you kept the religion pure. Well, the Samaritans didn't do that. They married with their conquerors. They intermingled, and they had kids. And they adopted a lot of their religious procedures. They created their own religious texts and their own religious things. So they were looked down upon by the other Jews at the time, not just because of their intermingled bloodlines, but because of their intermingled religious practices. They weren't just looked down upon, they were actually despised. And here's what I want you to think about as we talk about Samaritans this morning. I want you to think about the xenophobia that we experience in the United States. I want you to think about who we despise, who we look down upon. Who are the Samaritans in modern day America? So I hope you want to read this with me. It's Luke chapter 10, verses 30 through 35. A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell into the hands of robbers. They stripped him, they beat him, and they fled, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down that road. When he saw him, he passed by on the other side. In the same way, a Levite, when he arrived at the place and he saw him, he passed by the other side. But a Samaritan on his journey came up to him, and when he saw the man, he had compassion. He went over to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put him on his own animal, and he brought him to an inn, and he took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii, gave them to the innkeeper, and said, "Take care of him. When I come back, I'll reimburse you for whatever extra you have spent." So, there's a lot that you could dissect from this story, and I would love to do that with you sometime. But actually, I found a better dissection of it, and it comes from the Reverend Martin Luther King. I want to read you what he once said about this story. Martin Luther King said, "Now, you know we use our imagination a great deal to try to determine why the priest and the Levite didn't stop to help. At times, we say they were going to a church meeting. They had to get on down to Jerusalem. They couldn't be late for their meeting. Other times we speculate that there was a religious law that kept them from touching someone for 24 hours before a ceremony. But I'm going to tell you what my imagination tells me," Dr. King says. "It's possible that those men were afraid. You see, the Jericho Road is a dangerous road. I remember when Miss King and I were first in Jerusalem. We rented a car and we drove from Jerusalem down to Jericho. As soon as we got on that road, I said to my wife, I can see why Jesus used this as the setting for the Samaritan parable. It's a winding, meandering road. It's really conducive to ambushes. You start out in Jerusalem, which is about 1,200 feet above sea level. By the time you get down to Jericho, 15 or 20 minutes later, you're 22 feet below sea level. That's a dangerous road," Dr. King said. "In the days of Jesus, it came to be known as the Bloody Pass. And you know it's possible that the priest and the Levite looked over at the man on the ground. They wondered if the robbers were still around. Or is it possible that they felt that the man on the ground was faking it, and he was acting like he'd been robbed in order to seize them, to lure them for a quick and easy seizure? So the first question that the priest asked was, if I stop to help this man, what will happen to me? But the Good Samaritan came by. He reversed the question. If I do not stop to help this man, what will happen to him? Right now, we all need to ask ourselves that same question. If I don't stop to help somebody, what will happen to them? Even though we are practicing social distancing and self-quarantining, a lot of people are panicking. The first thing that jumps out at me from this story is don't panic. No one's going to run out of toilet paper. If you are running low on toilet paper, you're down to 1 roll, let me know. We will help find you some toilet paper. No one's going to run out of food. If you're running low on food, let me know. Hope Community will help find you food. The government is actually doing everything it can to prevent the spread of COVID-19. There's no need for any of us to panic. And let me tell you from personal experience, when I panic and I take measures into my own hands, it's usually the wrong thing to do, or it makes the situation worse. Best case scenario, it doesn't make the situation any better. When I trust in God and I do things God's way, things go eminently better. So don't panic. The second thing I really learned from this story was love saves lives. The Samaritan saw this guy laying on the road, bloody, beaten, left for dead. The Levite, the priest, had walked right by and ignored him. But the Samaritan's love, his compassion, saved a life. Now here's the thing, in this era, we don't know, and what's going on right now, we don't know who actually needs help. The Samaritan saw, it was obvious who needed help, but our neighbors often look just like us. We don't really know who needs love. So what we need to do is we need to spread love around indiscriminately. Call, text, send messages. Do everything you can to make sure that people know you love them. And if they do have a need, try to help fill that need. Sometimes it's as easy as just putting word out, and people will actually respond. And the third thing is actually this. We're called to be good neighbors to our enemies. Jesus talks about this. It's easy to love those who love you. It's easy to be kind to those who are kind to you. It's not easy to love those who are not kind to us, who seem to go out of their way to make your life miserable. You know, you've got a lot of free time right now. I encourage you, check out some famous feuds in history. The Hatfields and the McCoys. Google it. Great history there. Carthage and Rome. Amazing enmity in history. I'm going to tell you about Caravaggio and Baglioni. Caravaggio and Baglioni were Italian painters in the 1600s. And Baglioni had just put a new painting out. Caravaggio didn't like it. Now, Caravaggio was no stranger to feuds and enmity. He carried a sword every day for protection. So this guy was probably rather acerbic. People were used to him being a jerk. He and his friends start making fun of Baglioni's new painting, calling it rubbish. Well, Baglioni didn't like that. So in his next painting, he had the devil represented in the painting. Guess whose face he put on the devil? Caravaggio's. Caravaggio hears about this. He goes and sees it. He takes it personally. So what he does is he makes a series of poems. All about Baglioni and how bad a painter he is, and how the only thing his paintings are worth is being toilet paper, which is kind of ironic considering where we're at nowadays. So Baglioni hears about this, and he takes it very personally. He takes Caravaggio to court. The court finds that Caravaggio is guilty of libel, and they actually put him in jail for a short time. Years later, Baglioni died. Somebody asked Caravaggio, "How do you feel about that?" He said, quote, "He died as miserably as he had lived." These are the type of people we are called to love. As I said, it's easy to love those who are loving, easy to be kind to those who are kind to us. It's not as easy to be loving and kind to those who don't love us, who are not kind to us. But that's exactly who Jesus wants us to be loving and kind to. Jesus said, "You've heard it said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be the children of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, sends his rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Are not even the tax collectors doing that? And if you greet only your own people, what are you doing more than the others? Do not even pagans do that? I tell you, be perfect. Therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect." So to be a good neighbor, we have to be good to those. We have to be loving to those who are not loving and kind to us, to our enemies. All right, I'm almost done here, you guys. So I want to encourage you. Don't panic. Even though things look grim right now, don't panic. Remember that love can and does change and save lives. And finally, go out of your way to be loving and kind to those who are not loving and kind to you, to your enemies. Check out our Rebellion social media platforms, you guys. We got great stuff on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and our new YouTube page. Make sure and check that out as well. Look out for lots of texts and calls from your leaders because we love you. We want to check in with you. Make sure you're doing well during this stressful time, and be a good neighbor, you guys. I love you.